Awesome. And record over here. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are. T. Lightheart, founder of the Prosperity Health Alliance, the Wealthy Backpacker, author of that book, and of course, author of Staying Alive in the Toxic World from the Optimizer company. So these are the three things I'm trying to share with you today. A couple of things. I'm getting a lot of questions in all areas. So about limitations, what people are experiencing around limitations. So if you've had a limitation, if you have a challenge, if you have hit a roadblock, maybe you set a physical goal, a financial goal, maybe you set a fitness goal, whatever that goal might have been, what we're going to talk about today is how you can get past that. And there's a concept out there in the world that's called paradigms. And there's also another concept called paradigm blindness. And what a paradigm is a paradigm is a set of beliefs, a way of looking at the world that has both positives and negatives. And so one of the things that I think people, hi, I see everybody coming on, Tanya, True, how to go, Ramona. A lot of people are looking at paradigms, and a paradigm can be both a positive thing and a paradigm can be a negative thing. And that means that each level of consciousness or each level of awareness, whether that's a fitness level, whether that's on a business level, whether that's on a personal level, we all have a way of viewing the world. So for example, I look at the world as, say, maybe a Canadian who is a person who has a business and have been in business for 20 years. I'm a middle-aged guy. I have a certain paradigm, a set of beliefs within that, and that allows me to interact with the world successfully in some areas, yet unsuccessfully in other areas. And so what that means is that if you want to overcome any single goal, anything that you want to achieve in life, you have to recognize there's a certain set of beliefs, a certain set of actions, and a certain amount of time that it's going to take in order to make those things come true for you. And today, we're in this constant battle of people's paradigms, and I think it's holding people back in a lot of ways because they're focused on someone else says this, and that may be true for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true to you. Hey, Sherman, how's it going? So why do we have to understand goal setting and achievement from this paradigm perspective? Well, first and foremost, it gets you out of the victim mentality. The victim mentality is very, very challenging in that it's easy to say whatever you want to achieve in life. I didn't have the right opportunity. I didn't have the right mentor. I didn't get the right coaching. I don't have the genetics. I'm not that smart. All those things. Those are what I call limiting paradigms. Now, a positive paradigm is saying, well, if Bob or Mary can do this, I can do this too. I just need to learn what they're doing and apply that system to them, and then I can achieve the same thing. So the question is do you want to grow past the current paradigm in your life? Pick anything. Now, I can relate this particularly to business or to fitness or to achieving any personal result. It doesn't matter. You can use this for anything. It'll work in any area that you want to apply that to. Okay, so pick the limitation that you're having right now, whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is. Pick something that an area that you're struggling in, that you've tried to achieve, you tried to overcome, and you want to get past that. So what do? Well, the first step is to recognize you're struggling, recognize you're not producing the result you want, and recognize you're not producing the result you want in this particular area because there's a set of beliefs, actions, and behaviors, or lack thereof, that's producing that result. So you already are in a paradigm whether you like it or not, okay? Accept that for a second. Now, the next thing you need to accept, so the first level is acceptance. First, recognize where you're at. Okay, let's say I have a goal to make $20,000 a month, or let's say I have a goal to be at 10% body fat. Okay? Let's look at that. Those two kind of concepts. Well, if I'm not at that position, the actions, maybe the beliefs, the things that I'm doing is producing the result to keep me not at that point. Now, it might be good for something else. Maybe it allows me to be really good in my family life. Maybe that allows me to work a lot. Maybe it allows me to play sports and, hang out with the guys, or maybe socialize and drink beers on the weekend. It doesn't matter what the result is, but just recognize whatever your life is, the results that you're producing is a result of your paradigm. So how do you get over this? The first step of overcoming a limitation is what I call radical accountability. Now, radical accountability is not something that is very popular in today's world, because everything that you see in the news, everything that you see on social media, everything, or not everything, almost everything, there is this concept out there that there's a victim and there's a perpetrator. There's the rich and the poor, the 1% and the lousy percent. There's the genetic elite and the genetically inferior. There is the advantaged people and the disadvantaged people. Whatever it is, anytime you set up a polarity where you're a victim or you're oppressed, or you're feeling somehow that you've been wronged, or that you haven't had the chance, or you haven't had the opportunity, right there, you've got a massive problem, because you've disempowered yourself right there off the bat. It may be true. Maybe you didn't have that chance. Maybe you're not genetically advantaged. Maybe whatever that is true relative to your experience in your life. But if you study the history, if you study the mentors, if you study the people who have achieved a lot in the world, you'll find that they were up against massive struggle, massive challenges that would crush most people. But they had something in common, and that is they took 100% accountability and ownership of their life circumstances. Now, they might not have liked those life circumstances, and that's where you can leverage pain. That's where you can level what's causing the problems in your life, the one that's making you feel bad or feel limited or feel crushed. If you can own that pain and say, it's not somebody out there that's creating a problem. What I'm seeing out there is a reflection of what's going on in here or in here. So when you get to that piece, when you get to that place, this is a radical accountability. It is taking ownership of whatever's happening in your life, not as a victim, okay, but as the master of your destiny, the absolute person of control of what's going on. Because the second you flip that, right, you go from disempowered to empowered. You go from someone who is affected by change or circumstances to someone who can affect circumstances. That's radical accountability. And that is taking ownership that whatever's happening in the world right now, it's right. It's where I am at. There's a message there, and I can transcend this. I can change this. But in order to change that place, you're going to have to first recognize that I'm here because of a certain set of belief systems and circumstances and situations that could be going on. Hi, Ava. Hi, Angel. I'm owning that. I'm not making any excuses. 100% ownership of everything. And from that, I'm going to say, well, what do I need to change in order to make things different? What steps do I need to take? Who do I need to, and generally the only way out of this situation, for the most part, is to find someone or somebody or something that's produced a different result and has produced a different result on somewhat of a consistent basis. In other words, anybody can get lucky, as they say. Oftentimes a lot of people who might be successful don't know the reason they're successful. And that's why some of maybe the greatest athletes, artists, or professionals might not be the best teachers. The best teachers are the people that's gone through struggle. The best teachers are the people that didn't have all the quote unquote advantages, whether that be financial, genetic, social. You can go on down the list. Those people tend to be the best coaches. They tend to be the best mentors. They tend also to be the people who inspire the most. And ultimately, they're almost always the people who influence the world a lot more than other people. Hi, Kasha. So you're stuck in the struggle. Okay, so let's take you right in there. You're struggling with something. You're feeling the pain. You're feeling compressed. You're feeling the frustration. You don't have to recognize those feelings. Those feelings are designed for you to let you know that you're off track with the universal plan. If what you want is noble and it's right and it increases the value in society, and that's an important point. It's not just, ego gratification. If what it is right, it's uplifting and it's good for society, it's good for the world, then guess what? That frustration you're feeling is an experience to say, hey, you know what? There's something that you could be doing better. There's another way, a better way. And that's kind of like an invitation from God, from the universe, whatever you want to call it, the collective universal consciousness, beingness, the, source energy is telling you you're out of whack. And so by owning that, you say, okay, well, what are the belief systems that I'm using right now that may be limiting me? Or what could I do better? Now, this is where you've got to find a mentor. You've got to find a teacher. You've got to find a coach. You've got to find somebody who can help show you where your thinking's off, or where your actions are off, or where you could tweak a couple behaviors. Because if you don't do that, you're just randomly shooting darts at trying to find a better way to do things. And the problem with that is, or the challenge with that is you don't know what you don't know. There's a whole lot of things out there that I just don't know about. And that's the same of everybody. And especially if I'm not producing the result that I want, right? If I'm not producing that result, then guess what? I don't know. I don't know how to produce that result, or I would produce that result. So your results, they speak for themselves. The results you're producing, they're not bad. They're not good. They're not something you have to feel bad about or beat yourself up about. And that's another issue that a lot of people get into. They get into self-flagellation about beating themselves up because, they haven't made $1 million, or they're not got, a perfect body, or they're not in the right relationship, or whatever it happens to be, as opposed to taking ownership and saying, well, okay, if it's money that I want, well, there's actions that I'm taking on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis that's not leading to that. So I need to get a coach there. If it's a fitness related thing, it's like there's actions I'm taking on a daily, monthly, and weekly basis that I'm not living up to. Okay. If it's a relationship area, I'm not producing the relationship I want because I'm not being honest with myself. And that dishonesty with myself is attracting me to people who are reflecting my own self-dishonesty. And this is where radical accountability says, it's not anybody's fault. It's not somebody else doing something to you. Someone else is doing something to you. Someone else is producing this result because you're not able to take ownership of the situation. And now, I know there's situations with children and people in younger areas and stuff like that this isn't necessarily the case. But we're using it for where we are now. And there's all kinds of people who have overcome very challenging abusive situations as kids or as children or as teenagers or early adults that you can overcome it. So if you're in one of those situations, go get the psychological help, the professional help, again, to help you lead you out of that. Because whatever's happened to you in your life in the past, you can absolutely overcome it if you're willing to own it, get over it, and not let it define you. Don't let your past define you, okay? So you got to find the expert guidance. You got to find the person, the people, the organization, whatever it is that can help you produce the results that you want to produce. Next thing, what do you need to do? You need to implement new ideas, new technology, and new daily actions. Your daily method of action needs to change. And if it doesn't change, you are not going to change the result. Don't kid yourself. If what you're currently believing and thinking doesn't change, you're not going to produce a different result. And if you're just changing your mind or changing your behavior without professional guidance or without deep mentorship, your chances of success are really low, because again, another aspect of paradigms is having an ego that keeps you limited in that situation. In other words, the structure of the ego wants familiarity. The structure of the ego wants to be right. The structure of the ego, however it is for you right now, is keeping you where you're at. And that by nature needs to dissolve. And that oftentimes is not painful. It can be kind of painful, because I have to have radical humility. I have to admit that I'm not all that in a bag of chips. I have to admit I don't have it figured out. Okay? And in today's world of social media, everybody wants to have it figured out. Everybody's supposed to be living the lap of luxury and having the perfect relationship and being wealthy and be super fit and all. That's kind of the world that we're in, right? It's fake book. And, you know, I want to be clear. I don't have all this stuff figured out. I don't have my whole life figured out. I'm not any of those things. I mean, I've got a few things figured out. But could they be figured out better? Of course they have. And the areas that here's another clue. The areas that I've been most successful in are the areas that I have the most humility, that I'm constantly learning. And if I'm not constantly learning in an area, guess what? I'm slowly going downhill, right? So finding the expert guidance and then implementing through radical humility a new set of daily practices. Now, there's one other piece that comes to this, and that is the social programming. You have to realize that the people, places, and things in your life are reflective of your social programming. So, for example, if I'm a highly educated PhD professor who has spent 25 years of my life, engaging in a practice to get higher education, chances are I'm going to be resonating and discussing and spending most of my time with people who have that level of awareness. Now, there's some good parts of that, and that is you feel good, you feel connected and stuff, but if you're not producing the result you want, that might not be the crowd that you want to attract to. Same thing as if you're in business and you're a solo entrepreneur, let's say, and you want to grow your business, but all of your friends work for someone else. Well, the problem is going to be and maybe you've been working for yourself for a while, that you've got a set of beliefs and patterns and behaviors that operate as an employee. That's not to make an employee wrong or bad. I mean, the world needs employees, but to recognize that you're going to have to shift your consciousness out of employee consciousness into business person or employer consciousness. And in order to do that, you're going to have to hang around people who have done that, who have been there, who have experienced it, who might be able to help you transit it. It's not that your friends are wrong or bad or whatever. They just probably can't help you. Just like the PhDs can't help you, your friends in that group can't help you. So that's kind of the mentality of social programming. The other aspect of social programming is where you grew up, your parents. Say, Mark, how's it going, buddy? Your social economic environment, all of these areas which are common and familiar. So to make a breakthrough in a paradigm, to bust past your limitations, what do you got to do? You got to change the people you're hanging around with. You got to change where you're learning your information from. You got to have radical humility to learn what you don't know, to accept that you don't know everything. And then the next piece of that is you've got to apply yourself to the new paradigm or the new ideology or the new concept with devotion and determination. You're going to have to devote yourself to the new thing and recognize that this may take some time. You can shift your mind, you can start shifting your behavior right away, but it's going to have to take some time to integrate. So there's a lot of confusion of how does it, our whole lives are run by habits, and good habits or bad habits. It's just as easy to have a good habit as it is a bad habit. So the question is, what habits are you having daily? Those are a product of the paradigms, your belief systems, what it is that you do and stuff, who it is you hang around with, what are your values, all that sort of stuff. And if you want to make a radical change, then those are going to have to change. Now, it takes, one study said that a lot of people used to think it takes 21 days to take a new habit. Tai Lopez, the business guy, actually said that there was a school of psychologists that actually did a lot of research on this. It actually takes 67 days to change a new habit. Personally, I think for a new habit or behavior to be completely anchored, you're looking at least a year. At least a year, maybe even 18 months to fully get traction, to get that as an anchored behavior as strong as how maybe your old habit or your old pattern of thinking was. That's what, hey, Barbara, how you doing? I got to call you. I haven't talked to you in a while. Anyways, so there we go. We start out with radical. We want to get past the current limitations. We get past it by first radical accountability, accepting whatever's happening in your life is directly related to the way my brain is going, the way the habits I have, my belief systems, finding expert guidance to go through that, getting mentorship, someone who not only knows how to produce the result, but has helped other people produce that result as well. In other words, they can teach people to do what they do. Some people are like savants, or they're gifted in an area. They don't know how to explain it. And other people, and we usually said it's usually someone that wasn't so good, that learned a process or had behaviors and became good and became great at teaching it. And then building in the habits and having the determination and the persistence to overcome whatever social programming that you have to do. And, there's an old saying that, repetition is the key to learning, and that is true. Repeated exposure to an idea. I'll give you a little piece out of marketing. Right now in today's world, we know that it takes about 15 touches for someone to make a purchase. Now think about that. You probably saw an ad on Facebook. You probably saw an ad on Google or even on the television. How many times did you see that ad before you were able to take action on it? And that's as simple as making a purchase. And a lot of people never get past the purchase point of something. They never actually integrate whatever the purchase was for. And they're like, how many of you have something sitting around in your house that get really excited about after watching on TV, like 15 times, 20 times you saw it, you finally bought it, it got shipped in from wherever, Amazon or the company that sent it, and now it's sitting in your closet. You've never really implemented the benefits that this was going to happen. It happens in courses and stuff all the time. So recognizing that it's going to take some effort on social to overcome your social program, your paradigm, the belief system that you have. So what do you do in order to do that? Well, this is where you get an accountability process built into your life. So if you look at professional sports, they're a great model for learning things. And if you look at general accounting practices, those are a great way to follow how business is working out. And basically what that shares with you in both of those situations is someone is holding you accountable. So if it comes to your business, is how much money are you making? If it comes to your fitness level, are you getting fitter or are you getting fatter? If it comes to, I don't know, anything. It's like, are you progressing upwards or are you starting to go backwards? Your results say everything. Your results tell you everything. Now, the final piece of that, again, and we talked about that, is you're going to have this determination, this persistence, this proactivity for a period of time. And that's why mentorship or having a coach or a person that's guiding you is so important, because they can help you overcome that kind of painful, frustrating stage as you integrate a new habit, a new set of beliefs, a new paradigm into your consciousness so that you can produce a result. And they can hold you to that so that you stick with it long enough to actually produce you want. Because, you know, the universe doesn't always work in instant actions. Change can be an instant. You can flip a belief system instantly. You can make a jump to a new paradigm, a new belief system, a new activity level instantly, but the results are going to come after. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a habit of spending more than you earn. So let's say you make $4,000 a month, but you spend $5,000, and you've been doing this for 10 years, and you have $100,000 in debt. Okay, you have $100,000 in debt. You decided you're not going to do this anymore, so you go to a financial advisor. They put you on a program that allows you to now get your living expenses to $3,500 a month. Means that you're saving $500 a month. Okay, so you're now, the thing is the day that you implement this, you've gone from a $5,000 spend to a $3,500 spend almost instantly. You got an expert, they showed you what to do, they showed you how to go through it, you committed to it. Now what's going to happen over the next 30, 60, 90 days is you're going to be tempted to go back to the $5,000 level. Why? Because that's what you're conditioned. That's what you're going to rationalize. That's what you're going to say, I deserve this, I need this. You know, there's these events. I've done this. I've done this myself. I get it. So having that accountability, that coach to kind of get that process, like Terry, Dion, in is really, 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 really key. Really, really key. Now, over the first 3 months, you can say, well, I saved an extra $1,500. I paid down $100,000 of my debt. So now I only owe $98,500. And you go, oh, well, that's not so good. I guess this doesn't work. Yeah, it does work. You're just in the early stages of that. What you're not saying is, I'm not $103,000 in debt as I would have been. You see, had you gone through those 3 months, you'd be $103,000 in debt, right? In this case, you're only $98,500 in debt. So it's not a $1,500 difference. It's a $4,500 difference. You see the difference? You actually change that. Now that $4,500 difference in 3 months over the course of a year would be what? That's an $18,000 swing in the course of a year, right? That's a lot. Think about it. In 100,000, 5 years, you've almost got that debt paid off. You've literally not doubled the debt. You've actually reduced it. So, and probably if you continue down that process, you're going to come up with other ways to kind of get what's called accelerated learning, because you've changed your paradigm. And all of a sudden you start seeing things that you never saw before, opportunities that start happening. Same thing with fitness, same thing with health, same thing with relationships. It's always the same way. So the keys to success is having that expert guidance, taking enough time to recognize this is a lifestyle change, overcoming the habits of social programming. And then you go to your keys to success is each and every week, you chart your progress and you identify where you're having challenges. You discuss with your coach or your support group or whatever it is, you discuss what's coming up for you, what's the unconscious pattern, what's the conscious pattern, what's the behavior, what's the habit. You discuss that. Someone that you can be open and honest with and communicate with and have the humility to say, yeah, you know what, I don't know what it is. I just keep sneaking off to that favorite restaurant and I'm blowing out my diet, or I no matter how much I try to save, I find ways that I've got to have this must project and I spend too much. You get the idea. And then you solve the behavior component of that paradigm. And that's where it comes down to. knowing what to do isn't enough. Like, okay, yeah, I know what to do. Everybody knows how to make money. Everybody knows how to be fit. Everybody knows how to have a great relationship. I bet you if I told you, give me 5 things that you need to do in each one of those areas, you probably could do it. You probably could tell us the 5 things that you need to do. But can you implement that? Yeah, that's a whole other level. And that's where the solving is. That's where start knowing yourself. What are my patterns of behavior? Where do I check out? What are the situations that get me in trouble? What are the behaviors that come up for me, or the patterns of thinking or the patterns of feeling that come up and hold me back? Those are going to help you solve those problems. Okay, and then developing a procedure and a process to overcome that and implement the habits, behaviors, the strategies, the action steps, the technologies, whatever it takes to get that. And then the final thing is, I think in today's world, less is more. Try to do less instead of more. Instead of trying to do everything at once and fix everything at once, go back and say, you know what, I'm gonna go through, let's say you've got 3 areas of your life where you're struggling. Let's just say it was finances, fitness, and relationships. Those are 3 areas you're not producing what you could in a result. How do you do that? Well, what do you do? Well, what I say is this. Take one of those areas this quarter. Decide which one is most important to you, and implement a 90-day plan on that behavior alone. And after 90 days, if you feel that you have traction and you're moving forward, pick another item. If you feel you're not yet solid after 90 days, do another 90 days and measure this on a 90-day quarterly basis. That's why corporations measure on 90 days. I think it's a great way. You know, I use a traction process in my business. I talk about that book a lot. It's a great way. It talks about you have a 10-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 1-year plan, and then you break that down into 90-day sprints. I think it's really great to do that. But trying to fix your finances, your relationships, and your fitness all in 90 days because you went to a motivational seminar or you got inspired by somebody on YouTube is another recipe for disaster. Because implementing new ideas, new concepts, new paradigms is going to take time, and it's going to take emotional and energetic resources, because anytime you're doing a new behavior, your neural network isn't comfortable. Your neural network always wants to default to the slowest, easiest way to do things. And the reality is you want to, if you're going to try a new thing or implement a new business or implement a new strategy or a new fitness program or a new relationship strategy, whatever that happens to be, you've got to give yourself enough time to build a new neural network that the habits of that process allows you to produce the results that you want to produce. Okay? You got to build that new neural pathway so you don't have to think about it. Okay? And that's where you want to get to. You want to get to the point you're not thinking about it. And that's when you've implemented a new paradigm in your life. I'm not saying that paradigm is right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that that paradigm can produce a different result. And then finally, always measure your results. The results don't lie. You can't, business, we live in a world where, people they're just not looking at the results they're producing. They're not looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, I'm just overweight, plain and simple, that's it. It's not a metabolic condition. It's not this. Everybody's looking to be a victim of something. Oh, I've got bad genes. I'm big boned. I have everything. If it's business, I didn't have the right mentorship. I don't have enough money. I don't have anytime you're in that, when you default to a victim strategy, again, you disempower yourself. You're not being honest with yourself, and you're not able to change what it is that you have to do. So measure results, accept your results as a product of what you're doing, and then move beyond them by implementing strategies, proven strategies from people who've been there, people who have done that, people who have produced the result you want. And guess what? If you implement that in your life and practice those procedures and habits, you're going to produce better results, and ultimately you'll achieve the goals that you want to achieve. It really comes down to simple. So that's my whole kick on how to bust through your current level or limitations, smashing and busting through paradigms. I'm Wade T. Lightheart. If you like this, please give a comment. I would appreciate that. You can also check out some of our business items on Prosperity and Health Alliance, The Wealthy Backpacker, and of course our health courses by Optimizers. Thanks so much. Love having you on here. Have yourself an awesome day.